Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Alfred University Professor Emeritus of Political Science, Dr. Robert A. Heineman, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, I'm ready to talk now, Brian.
Let's start with the shutdown. It's
beginning to get a little ridiculous at this point, and I think Congressman Reed's criticism of the whole effort is apropos. Now they're talking about, well, it's going to be a wall, it's going to be steel girders, I don't know, is it going to be a mosquito mesh? I don't know what they're planning to throw up there, and the Democrats, I think, look pretty foolish at this point in terms of their position, and in fact, in a way, they kind of have control of both houses on this issue because Democrats have a majority in the House, and of course, the Republicans are allowing that they have a 60 vote. It's going to take 60 votes in the Senate to pass anything. Now, McConnell could exercise the so-called nuclear option and put an end to the cloture vote, the filibuster in the Senate on this, but he apparently doesn't want to do that. So it's going to take some Democrats in the Senate too to go along, and so it's it's really kind of in their court, and how long they're going to hold out on this, it's hard to say. I frankly I think Trump is going to hold out as long as. Are
you surprised?
Right.
That he's saying, no, forget it, we're going to wait until I get mine.
I think there are a couple things going on there. I think, one, he campaigned on a promise to build a wall, and he was elected, and I think, there's probably quite a few people who voted for him on that pledge. So he feels, unlike a lot of politicians, he's not going to go back on the commitment he made to the voters. The second point is, I don't think Trump cares whether he's reelected or not. He can find other jobs that pay a heck of a lot more money and have a lot better housing than the White House. So he's going to stick with it. He's not going to back down.
Any predictions on who's going to win?
Well, I don't think there's a win on this. I think basically they'll come to some sort of understanding. And if I were the Democrats, I'd go ahead and give him the $3.5 billion or whatever it is, not $5 billion, but a little less, and say it has to go for steel girders or whatever. And if I'm Trump, I sign it and I put whatever I want up there for a wall. And what are they going to do about it?
The liberal media, the conservative media has been making hay with all these old video clips and old sound bites of Schumer and Pelosi and Obama supporting the idea of not necessarily walls, but tougher immigration.
Right. Yeah, no, a lot of this is the whole personality anti-Trump thing there, and frankly, we'll just see how the Democrats play this, but if they keep going down this road with their claims there's going to be all kinds of investigations and things of that sort, and worry about Donald Trump's tax returns and his affiliation with Stormy Daniels. I mean, people have had enough of this, and especially when you got the government, something like 800,000 people out of work, because these guys can't agree. I think the public is going to get, has had enough of that. So if Trump can kind of keep his mouth shut, which is pushing the envelope quite a ways, and just kind of let it settle on the shoulders of the Democrats. I mean, from the Democrat point of view, it seems to me the leadership's position should be, let's get this out of the way and let's get on to other issues that, frankly, are a lot more important. But, I'm not a Democrat, so.
Now, Trump's been under a lot of criticism for the news of pulling out of places like Syria.
Yes. Well, I think, Wednesday night I was listening to Tucker Carlson, who is, I guess, coming under a lot of criticism for his positions. And he's absolutely right. it's just stupid. How long are we going to run wars in this country without putting them to a close? And you can understand this whole military-industrial complex, you could say military-industrial political complex inside the Beltway, gets huge benefits from these wars. And they don't want to see them stopped.
Dr. Bob, you sound like President Eisenhower here.
Well, I like Ike. Yes, I liked Ike. Yeah. This whole thing in Syria basically is a result of the failed Obama-Clinton foreign policy. The thing in Afghanistan, you can understand that going in there, but we have to have a whole fresh approach to dealing with these terrorist situations around the world. And getting out of the Middle East would be a start, conserving our forces and basically focusing in a much more precise fashion on various kinds of terrorist threats. So I think that's the advantage of having Trump in there as an outsider who's saying, hey, what's going on here? This is just an endless situation. And the concern in Syria about the Kurds have now gone to Assad and asked Assad for protection. And I think if I'm Assad, I don't know what he'll do, but I assume I would protect them, and because the alternative is to have the Turks come charging in there and try to slaughter them all. And so from Assad's point of view, having the Kurds on his side is probably a good thing. So the point is, you got a lot of players there, and they're capable of working these things out without us being in there losing American troops. I mean, it's just. Trump's absolutely right on that. But it is amazing to watch how you get this backfire, blowback from inside the Beltway and around the Beltway suburbs there. It's amazing how many people are tied into military adventures on our part. It's
Dr. Bob, on the topic of the Beltway, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and I said, the neat thing about talking to Dr. Heineman is he doesn't just get his news from the newscasts, TV, radio, or newspaper print. He gets his news by talking to people in the know in both Washington and Albany. I mean, I'm sure you do watch news and catch shows
Not
here and
much.
there, but you have a lot of good sources, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, we have a few people we talk to here and there, yeah.
You're well connected, Dr. Bob, and that's why I'm sucking up to you right now.
Well, you're pretty well connected in the Beltway too there, young man, but we'll keep our connections
Which brings me to my point. Tucker Carlson, who you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Tucker Carlson made a point of saying that, and he's not the only one that said this, that the reporters of today in the Beltway in Washington are way too personally tied to the sources.
Right.
Whatever agency you want to name or whatever,
right.
They're hanging around, they're drinking, and Tucker would know because he goes out to restaurants, as you can tell, and he gets harassed sometimes in these places. But he says there's too much collusion, if you will.
Well, they're parasites. They're sort of parasites on these agencies. Instead of going out and doing grassroots fieldwork investigations of one sort or another, it's a lot easier to just go out to lunch or dinner or social hours of one sort or another with the various higher members of the agency and get their take on this and that, and then you basically kind of parrot what the agencies are trying, what they want out there. And the problem here right now is, I think, and this is one of the problems that Trump faces, and Tucker Carlson obviously has recognized this as well, is that he comes in completely outside this whole network that is built up, and he's tearing it all to pieces and would tear it up more if he could. And so the media, the whole media, well, not the whole media, but certainly a huge portion of it, is basically dedicated to getting rid of this guy. And so you have these strange situations going on and on about Russian collusion, and this guy Mueller, who has been investigating Trump for now, over a year? Well, it's been over 2 years now, almost 2 years, and there's nothing nothing has showed up here yet. So the point is, the media just won't let it go because it threatens them as well. And obviously, for a lot of agencies,
too personally tied to the people they're covering.
And a lot of agencies obviously are threatened, and for good reason.
They're getting wined and dined, and they're getting tricked into a lot of their coverage. People think it's just the liberal media, and I'm sure that
it's not. It's certainly
a lot more complicated than that. I think
conservative. And the thing about the shutdown, which we mentioned before, is you got some 800,000 people out of work, and guess what? We're buzzing right along pretty much as we always have before. Now I'm sure there are glitches here and there, but the fact is, do we need all these people employed by the government? It's not clear that we do.
What was the kind of administration? It was a very small administration that Roosevelt had that won World War II. I mean, it's just, how many people do you need down there? You're right. If I could get back to something else that Tucker Carlson said about the Washington media.
Well, all right, sure.
Okay. He said they're not journalism majors, so they didn't go through being taught. These aren't people that took lessons in journalism in college or high school, and they didn't take government and civics courses. They're sociology majors.
Oh, wow.
Nothing against sociology, but are they in the right field? Tucker seems to think not.
Well, there's a famous, there's a famous work article years ago. Point of the article was that sociologists spend all their time studying these deviants and deviances in society because they're all that gives them articles and research and such. And the guy's point is maybe you should just study normal people and what they're doing. Quite a famous article in sociology, but not many sociologists have followed this guy's suggestion.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk state and national, both starting with state. Stay with us.
Selecting a nursing home for a loved one isn't easy until you've discovered Hornell Gardens Nursing and Rehabilitation. Hornell Gardens delivers the highest level of care, compassion, and commitment with amenities and activities that will enrich body, mind, and spirit. It's a place that's close to home. Stop in for a tour of Hornell Gardens, located at 434 Monroe Avenue in Hornell, or to learn more, call 585-222-CARE or visit hurlbutcare.com.
Checking in now with the meek and mild meteorologist Rob Carolyn.
Meek and mild, boy, I don't think I've ever heard that term used to describe me. Weather-wise this morning, Brian, we're looking forward to a rather mild January day. January thaw kicking into high gear next couple of days. We will be turning colder by the end of the weekend, but we are certainly going to enjoy some above-normal weather both today and tomorrow. Fair amount of sunshine for today. We're going to be close to 50. Brian, sunrise this morning was at 7:39. It'll set tonight at 4:52. We've actually picked up about 7 minutes a day daylight already since the solstice on the 21st. Tonight we're going to be partly cloudy. We'll get down to 30, but if you're headed out tonight, the weather looks fine. Tomorrow, partly sunny day overall. Low pressure will pass southeast of the region. It'll produce some rain down near the city and across Long Island, but for us, we're partly sunny, 45 to 50. Tomorrow night, cold front's going to sweep through the area. Clouds, couple of flurries and snow showers, 30 to 35. Then lots of leftover cloudiness for Sunday. We're breezy and we're colder. High Sunday, 35 to 40.
Back with Dr. Robert A. Heineman.
Yeah.
Dr. Bob, what's going on in Albany? I call offices that I used to get the phone answered within 2 rings, and I'm getting answering machines. Is it I'm unpopular up there, or what's going on?
No, I think it's pretty clear that the Republicans are being pretty much stripped of their staff, and so you're going to have a little more trouble getting through to the people.
Yeah, I emailed somebody that I've known for years up there. No response.
Yeah, well, they're and I'm sure they were aware of this. I mean, once the election results came in after early November, then people, senators, primarily our Republican state senators, who are going to be in the minority, and then some of them are even in more of a minority because they opposed Flanagan.
Oh, does Flanagan have anything to do with this?
Not going to be much left there.
Does he, Doc? I hate to press you, but
how about?
Does Flanagan have anything to do with it?
I don't know, but I've certainly seen this happen again and again over the years, and there's no mercy in those situations. I will say I did want to touch on something here. A couple other points I wanted to touch on. One, the homicide rate in New York City, which you don't cover much here, Brian, but in 2018, I think there were 287 homicides in New York City. And I think in 1900, there were 2,400 homicides. So the fact is, the homicide rate in New York City is one of the lowest. Well, I think it is the lowest since they've been keeping those kinds of figures. That's incredible. I mean, that's just an incredible achievement on the part of the New York City police and law enforcement people. But what's interesting is that the commissioner of police has been out to Colorado now, and he says his real concern is the legalization of marijuana now in New York State. He said that his fear is that's going to have a real effect on increasing the serious crime rate. And apparently in Colorado they've had a major spike in vehicular deaths and homicides from the guys drugged up with legal marijuana. And it's definitely had a tragic effect, which it will have in New York State too.
You used to be a judge, am I correct, or town justice or something?
Yes.
What do you notice? What did you notice in the courtroom when people under the influence of marijuana came into the courtroom?
Well, we've had some serious, sad effects. Number one, the marijuana worked its way down into the high school age group. So you had kids who were in high school who were, getting hold of marijuana, and some of those cases have just been tragic, just tragic. And I don't know how you can stop that once you legalize the stuff. I mean, you can go ahead and say 21 years old, no more than an ounce or whatever. You can forget that. It's just going to be a very, very, it's going to be tragic. And you talk about this whole opiate epidemic again. You can try to blame the drug companies and such. Well, that's all by the boards. I've been reading some recent articles on that. And the real problem is the drugs that are out on the streets. I mean, that's the trouble. And so at any rate, I just think we should congratulate New York City, which you take New York City and Los Angeles combined, the first and second largest cities in the country, their homicide rates combined are less than the homicide rate for Chicago.
Well, that's that great police commissioner they have there, Tom Selleck.
In Chicago? I think it's Rahm Emanuel, that wonderful
Blue Bloods
mayor
TV show. Never mind.
Yeah, right.
Dr. Bob, Times Union, Chris Churchill, not to be confused with the Alfred University Chris Churchill.
Right.
But a Chris Churchill at the Albany Times Union has an editorial. Do we think Andrew Cuomo will run for president?
Yeah. Well, that does lead into the next topic, I think, that is going to be pretty fascinating here. I think clearly Cuomo is going to run for president. I think he's running for president right now. But what's interesting is, of course, he's given tremendous amount of credit to Joe Biden. He thinks Biden would be a great candidate. Now, Biden's 76 years old. If he runs for the presidency and gets elected, he'll be 78 or 79. Joe's a nice guy. He's your basic kind of moderate Democrat. I think he's likable. And I can see, where Cuomo would very much like to sort of attach himself to Biden. But I think his theory is that Biden clearly is not going to be able to run for president. And if he doesn't, he and Joe might put together a pretty good effort there for Mr. Cuomo. Now, on the other side of the liberal spectrum there, as you know, Pocahontas, what's her name?
Elizabeth Warren.
Yes, Elizabeth Warren has declared that she is running, and made this fiery speech about how Republicans are favoring all the wealthy people, etc. Apparently, she hasn't looked at the unemployment rate for blacks and Hispanics and things of that sort lately. But in any case, the theory there is she's in there to split the vote for Bernie Sanders. And what's interesting is that now you're getting the hashtag #MeToo effort going after Bernie Sanders, claiming that there were instances of sexual harassment and such in his campaign staff that he never paid any attention to 2 years ago. And, Bernie's guilty in that respect. So I think you're seeing a real effort there to undercut this really left-wing progressive effort on the Democrat side. And the question is, who's going to benefit from something like that? I don't know.
Andrew Cuomo?
I don't think Cuomo will be, but I think somebody you want to watch is Bloomberg pretty carefully there. Guy's very capable, and I can see where you could get him stepping forward, trying to pick up the progressive mantle there. I don't know. It could be somebody else. I'm sorry?
If there was a debate and you had on up at the podiums people like Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Cory Booker, and Mike Bloomberg, who do you think would win?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how. I've never seen Cory Booker operate in public. Actually, I don't think well, Bloomberg's pretty good. I've seen him, and I don't know. I've never really seen Gillibrand, of course.
What about a Gillibrand Cory Booker ticket, or Gillibrand Kamala Harris?
Well, we could play with this ad infinitum there. I think
feel
it's
like
more,
they're like I'm some sort of political consultant coming up with ideas for the Democrats in Washington.
Well, come up with better ideas. Well, yeah, I mean that's. But no, I think Bloomberg, with his money and his background and his proven ability to manipulate elections perfectly legally, don't get me wrong on that, is a sort of hovering in the background there. But no, I don't think there's any question but what Cuomo is running for president. And he's doing it very, very well in the sense that he's not declaring, he's not making any clear effort there. But eventually he would have to do that, obviously. But that's 18 months or more down the pike as far as he's concerned.
All right, Dr. Bob, I believe we are out of time.
Well, we covered a number of pretty important issues, and
we didn't even have to read the phone book.
Yeah, let's hope the government can get back to work here. Yeah.